Hi everyone, welcome to The Wheels Are Designed to Turn. This is a course in how to do dropbacks. My name is Paige and this is Rachel. She's going to be my assistant today in demoing how to achieve a nice, effective, efficient dropback. So before we begin, I just want to state that like any part of the yoga process, it could take a day to learn it, it could take years. So keep that in mind, be patient, and enjoy this course. Thank you. Hi everyone. So before we begin, I just want to go over some of the components of dropbacks, on many different levels. So first of all, we're going to break this course down into parts. We're going to talk about the feet, the legs, the hips, the hip flexors, the spine, the shoulders, the heart. Then we're going to put it all together. So each one of these parts of the process is equally important. And I think the reason that most people struggle with dropbacks is because they don't understand that every aspect of that wheel, every spoke on that wheel plays a part. So we're going to break it all down. And I also want to maybe preface you for some of the psychological things to expect, some of the emotional things to expect. Fear is probably the biggest part when you're dropping back. It's definitely one of the best ways to conquer your fear. But keep in mind, the floor, has your back. It will be there when you fall, and it's not going anywhere, okay? So know that. I'll get more into the psychological and the emotional in the side notes of this course, but I do want to preface with a little bit of that, And emotionally, a lot of stuff comes up. So if you find yourself getting emotional, whether it's, sadness or anger or whatever, just know that that's totally a natural part of the process. To expect it, embrace it, enjoy it, move through it, and make it to your ultimate finish line. All right, are you ready to get into your body?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. So the first part of any pose, I don't care what it is, asana means seat in Sanskrit, so we have to find our seat. In this case, can you guess what it would be? Okay, I'm going to tell you, just in case. It's your feet. Good, Rachel, I appreciate that. Your feet are your roots, okay? Your feet are what you are going to rely on to keep you stable and solid when you're dropping back, all right? So anyone who is ready for dropbacks has already gotten familiar with and comfortable with full wheel pose, Urdhva Dhanurasana, okay? But now we're going to turn that wheel, which is a little bit different, okay? When you're in Urdhva, you have your feet and you have your hands as your roots. When you're in dropbacks, your roots essentially are just your feet. I know it looks like your hands play a role, but the truth is they're more ornamental. The work is done from the feet up. So the first thing I have students do, if they're not really there, is get really comfortable with their feet. And it's different for everyone. So Rachel, may or may not need to go wide, but she can. I know a lot of us are taught to stay narrow, but I'm going to break that rule today, okay? So find your heels, find your big toe, find your smaller toes, find the ball of your foot, find the outer part of your foot, and allow your weight to sway all around so you really feel what it means to be rooted, okay? Again, this is going to be your ball and chain that you actually want to have. I think a good analogy would be an anchor, right? Like an anchor to a ship. The ship might move back and forth here and there, but it really can't go too far because it's rooted down into the sea, okay? So think of your feet that way. The better your roots are, the more optimal your back bend will be, and I'll explain that later. So with your feet, the next part of that would be to take that energy and that rooting up your legs. So Rachel doesn't seem to need wide. I'm going to tell you right now I like wide. Wider. So if you want to just turn and just show them the difference between narrow and then wide. And you can even turn your feet out if you choose. Now get your legs into it. Really feel your legs sway, keeping your feet rooted on the ground, and engage the leg from the bottom up and find strength and stability in your legs. That's going to be essential. Everyone forgets when they go back, they take their root with them when they're first learning. Totally normal, no judgment. But we want to develop good habits so we can have a really beautiful, efficient, healthy drop back. And this course is not just designed for a basic drop back. I'll show you how to deepen that and to actually work towards chakra bandhasana, where you catch your ankles. If that's a goal for you, I'll teach you how to get there too. All right, so we're actually going to do an activity that helps you get into your feet and your legs a little bit more, and it will actually help you with your Urdhva Dhanurasana as well. So I'm going to have Rachel come lay on her back and bring her feet in, so where her heels are actually in line with her sit bones, like we're going to do bridge pose, but not. Okay? So this is a really good way to help access what you need in your lower body. I love this exercise, actually. So most people, and maybe Rachel can give me like the not so healthy way to come up. Most people, when they puff their pelvis, yes, okay? So they put their hands under their shoulders and they use their pelvis to lift, okay? The problem with this is it creates compression in that low back, and we actually want to avoid the low back altogether. And you can do some pretty extreme back bends without ever having to sacrifice that low back point, okay? So one of the activities I like is where, for example, Rachel's gonna put all the weight in her feet, and instead of coming up, we're actually not gonna come up all the way, we're just gonna come up into bridge pose, but she's gonna shift her weight forward as she lifts her legs off the ground. This is pure quadricep work. And lower down. So you're actually shifting into the heels and forward. You're not puffing the pelvis, you're going forward. Do you feel that in your legs? Okay, come down. And then when you go up into Urdhva Dhanurasana, you'll just add the hands, but what you'll do is you'll start by putting the weight, go ahead, in. You can go ahead and prepare for full wheel. Yep, take the weight, perfect. Into the legs, shift into the legs, and then lift the heart. So never at any time do we puff the pelvic area. We go legs, we go heart. And if she wants, now that she's up, she can actually take her heart to the back wall. So she can shift her weight back. Yep. And then to come down, legs, shift into the legs, head, and lower. So this is a great exercise to help build up that awareness into the lower body. I don't want to label it strength because typically we're strong enough. It's that we don't have the awareness to just take the weight there. Okay, so for the purpose of this course, the next thing I want to talk about actually is your landing, I guess. Your roots are not your hands in dropbacks, but obviously they play a role. And not just in landing, but you know, from the feet all the way up and over, everything has to find space, okay? Now, a lot of people Go ahead and turn around with your back facing them. A lot of people, when they first get into back bends, they do what a lot of gymnasts do. They have this stance. So go ahead and show them the gymnast stance, right? Okay, and that's beautiful for certain things. But if you want a healthy back bend or a healthy drop back, what happens over time is this position actually locks out, okay? And you can't go any further without deteriorating the deltoid or the shoulder girdle. And that's where it becomes detrimental, and you can end up with shoulder problems. So from the very beginning, it's important to understand how to rotate in a healthy way, okay? Because if you work with the joint's natural rotation, there's really not a lot of limitation to it. It's when we abuse the joints and their natural rhythm that we have problems down the road. So if you just work with its natural alignment, you can go really deep. And this is essential if you ever want to do Chakrabandhasana, okay? So you have to understand the inward rotation, okay? Which looks more like this, right? So now the elbow is coming in towards the body. You're creating space in the shoulder here, and everything wraps in. The beauty of this is that now she doesn't cap off like she does when she's here, right? This can actually keep going over time, and she'll go deeper and deeper, and it's really healthy, actually. It's a nice stretch. So maintaining that in the beginning is tough because the latissimus, the serratus, it's weak, doesn't want to do the work. And any time that our body is so intelligent, it's always going to default to the point of least resistance. And in this case, it ends up being that beautiful gymnast stance, right? It's like, oh, that's just easier, right? Because our muscles are more developed to hold that position than they are to hold this position. But again, if you want a long practice, if you want a healthy back bend, a healthy drop back, it's kind of essential to understand this. I'm not a huge fan of props, but if you find that you need one, you can put a strap around your arms and you can practice that action, you know, just on your own time if you're just wanting to understand. But more importantly, you really want to find the action here, okay? So that way when you reach back, this is strong and it can reach. And you'll discover that weakness down the road. You'll be like, oh, I've got nothing. It's beautiful, it's great, and it's fun, but it is also essential to understand it for a healthy back bend. So one of the things you can do, let's say you're not open. Maybe it's not an issue of strength, maybe it's an issue of mobility, right? Gomukhasana or cow face pose, doing the arms, is a really nice way to do that stretch, and Rachel can demonstrate what that looks like. You can use a belt if you need to, right? You can find ways to work your way into the full clasp and relax into it. Don't grip so much that you're creating tension in the shoulder, because anywhere that needs to soften, you have to yield or let go. So find just enough traction to where you're holding, and then let the rest go so it can actually soften. So that way you have more mobility to do what's required of you as a whole, right? So, you know, Urdhva Dhanurasana, it's great. That's really the only prerequisite to this course, but now we're deepening it. And so it's important that we have, you know, our ducks in a row. So next, Rachel and I are going to go to the wall. We'll meet you there, and we will go over how to open the heart and the upper thoracic. So now we're going to work into our thoracic. Rachel, stand in front of me for a second. I just want to show these people some stuff. Okay, so the problem with most dropbacks, actually turn and face the front. I think you'll do a good demonstration of a bad dropback. It's like, for me, it's like nails on a chalkboard, thank you. It's all pelvis thrusting. And I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. Again, the body is always going to find the point of least resistance to operate from. But if we get into these bad habits, we shorten the life of our yoga practice. We end up hating yoga. We hate back bends or whatever, and they're evil. And we don't want that. And here's the thing, the low back has no protection, right? That's why it's so easy to access. The rib cage surrounds the upper back, and even as you work into extreme back bends, you'll find that you're just going up the spine. We always want to go down the spine. Don't do it. Go up, right? When you go really deep into a back bend, you're actually going to have to find space and traction in the cervical spine, which is even more fun, right? But we're going to, for the purpose of this course, we're going to work with the thoracic and stay out of our low back. The thoracic starts right about here. You know it because it's right about where your rib cage starts too. Your low back is not protected, and so you want to work from here, but honestly, you want to work more from here. Like, just to play it safe. We are going to work into the area in between our shoulder blades. I know that, you know, most men don't wear bras, but for a lot of us, it's the bra line, okay? That's where you want to put your mental radar. That's where you want to find the bend, okay? And then along with that, we're going to work this entire area. So in between the rib cage, yes, right? We're going to find space in between, and we're going to create traction all the way up. Now, just a side note, and again, I'm going to talk about more of this later. A lot of people, okay, again, totally normal, be prepared for this to happen if it hasn't already. They're like, and I'm going for the mid-back, and it's fighting back, and I'm going to go for the low back, right? They hit like this wall of resistance, right? That's called connective tissue. And it feels sometimes like you're stabbing at it, or it's a burning sensation, like someone's literally cutting at your back. Yay, that's normal. That's exactly where you want to be, okay? Like, and I say these things because if people don't know what to expect, then they just bail. They're like, that was weird, I'm out, okay? So I really like to prepare students for what they're getting themselves into, so that there's none of this like retraction, just merely out of ignorance. Like, know what you're getting into. It's not going to be comfortable. In fact, if you're uncomfortable, we are so in the right spot, okay? So keep that in mind. So yeah, we're going to work from mainly about the bra line up. And that's why the shoulders are really important as well, because you can't separate out the connection that they have here. So one of my favorite activities that I have students do actually is come to the wall. Now, let's see. It's going to depend on your body how close or how far you are from the wall. If you're really tight, you're going to need more distance. If you're really bendy, you're going to need to be closer, okay? Now, I like to add humor into my teaching. And there's a little bit like of a torque position that we're in when we're learning to find that heart area, okay? We want to keep the lower body neutral, so it kind of ends up looking like we're sticking our butt out. But really, we're just keeping the pelvis neutral and finding lift and space in the heart. So what Rachel's going to do actually is demonstrate an activity that I love. Okay, it's great for the shoulders. It's great for the thoracic spine. Take your arms all the way up, Rachel. If you want to, you can take your hands together. It's up to you. Leverage is important. Sometimes it's easier to find the leverage if your hands are together. But now from this position, we're going to go up. So if there was like $1 million at the ceiling, you're reaching for it, okay? Like, you are going up. Before you go back, you have to go up. So we're going to first find a good lift. And we're going to create space in between the ribs, right? In between each vertebrae, yeah? And now from here, our goal is to not lose that lift. And we're going to just lean back, look for the wall, and then when we see it, we're going to place our palms flat on the wall, just like we were in Urdhva. Okay? Find a comfortable position. Now again, it's really important, see, to try and keep this neutral, because if this starts to bend and collapse, we can't get into our upper back. So it's really important, again, the feet, the legs, and now the pelvic area has to stay in line. Keep it neutral. So that way, where does the bend go? It goes up. It goes up the spine into the thoracic. We protect our shoulders by keeping our elbows in, and we soften that shoulder girdle at the same time. Go ahead and come out, Rachel. Give her a little break. But that's probably the biggest faux pas that I see with dropbacks especially. And if you practice second series Ashtanga, you'll see this in Kapotasana, is the tendency to go back without going up, okay? And that lift is essential, okay? Especially if you're into the energetic aspect of yoga. You'll never be able to access the Kundalini energy and take it up the spine if you block it by thwarting the lift, okay? You want to take it up. So go ahead and demonstrate that one more time. She's going to go all the way up. Reach for that money. Find it, and then find the wall. As she pushes against the wall, she's going to maintain strength in her legs, rooted feet. She's going to take the lift up her back by keeping the pelvic area neutral, okay? And between her hands and her feet, she's going to create a nice bend in her heart area. And hands together to your heart. Perfect. I'm going to show this next on the floor. If you have a partner, this is a great way to also get into your heart area. Okay, so I demonstrated with Rachel how to find the heart center at the wall, standing on your feet, which is essential for the drop back. But every once in a while, I have that student that is struggling with really getting into their back. And sometimes it's just easier to find that space when you're lower to the floor. Again, it's just the physics of your body and the way you find things. There's no right or wrong way. This is just another way to find that space. So if you have a partner, I love this exercise. If you don't, you can do your best to find it without, but a partner is a really good way to actually access this space. So I'm going to have Rachel come up onto her shins. Go ahead and spread your knees a little bit. I am Ashtanga trained, so I like wide roots. Okay, so this is a really nice heart opener. The goal here is to root into your lower leg and the top of the foot. You're going to push into the ground with that part of your body, because now, for the purpose of this exercise, our root is going to be here, okay? So understand that opposition is going to be a big player in most of your yoga practice. Anytime you need to go up, you actually think about going down. You push down to find up, okay? The body, it's all connected. So when you push outside something, it pushes back. So if we want to find our lift, we actually have to find our roots. So again, in this position, it would be her shins. Now, same as everything else, she's going to take her arms up to the ceiling, lift them high. She's going to find space. And another thing you can do, actually, you can do this at the wall too. Take your hands together. And this is another opposition point. So if you can leverage, sometimes it makes it easier for the body to understand. And what do I mean by that? If she pushes her thumbs into her sternum and her sternum into her thumbs, now she has a pushing point, right? Something to push into to find that that leverage, so now she can lean in, okay, right? So that's another thing you can do if you want to start there and then take your arms up, or take your arms up and then start there. Either way is fine. We're just trying to get to know our bodies and open them, okay? And she's going to now go up. I am going to put my foot actually to where the ball of my foot is at that brow line, okay? And she's going to lean back. And I am going to go ahead and bend your arms. Cool. I'm going to take her hands here. She's going to push into her shins, find her heart that way, and then I'm going to take my foot into her back. Very important here that you keep it at the brow line. Ball of the foot is your gas. And you can go as far as they can go, or as little as they can't go. But it's a great way to help them find the thoracic spine.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes, if we've never accessed that part of our body, then the mind doesn't know how to find it. So, putting my foot here tells her brain, oh, that's where it needs to bend. That's where it needs to go. And then also taking the hands to the heart, right?
That helps a lot.
It gives you something to push into, so that way you're not just kind of out there in no man's land trying to figure out where the bend is, right? You can actually use it from the front side and lean into your hands, right? So that's a great exercise. Be gentle with the person if you are their partner, and just make sure that anytime you're going back or forward, again, I can't stress this enough, elbows in, hands together, that rotation has to happen. Otherwise, you get into bad habits, and it doesn't take much of this to hurt the shoulder girdle, but people do it. They come out of their back bends thrusting forward with their shoulders, and it's not healthy. So find your roots, right? Lean forward, arms up together, and come out. Do you want to demo just that last piece real quickly? We'll do it again standing, but I just want to show them. So she's here, right? She's back, and now we're going to come out of it. So she's going to engage her legs, push down, lean forward, and come out. People are going to want to wing it. I call it winging it. They wing out, and because they're just trying to use momentum to come forward. It's easier, but it's actually more damaging long term. So we want to keep you safe and healthy. Now we're actually going to start putting it together, and we're going to talk again about, I touched on it before, but now we're really going to talk about stance. So, you know, I kind of tried to cater this video to all schools, all backgrounds, and for some of you that might mean dumping what you've learned. For others it might be totally natural and a progression to what you've learned. Now, a lot of us in the West have learned that we have to keep our feet parallel, and they have to be close together, and there is no other way around it. But I'm here to tell you that we are going to toss all of that in the trash, okay? Two things, or I should say two sides to the same coin. All right, just like most of us are predominantly right-handed, with a few being the exception of using the left hand in the world, same goes for like the hip joint. Most of us externally rotate naturally. That would be a natural stance for us to just be, right, like a ballerina, okay? And then there's your left-handed people, or your internal rotators, who are more prone to pigeon feet, okay? And they can rotate their feet inward easily. So what happens when an external rotator moves inward is that they're no longer in their neutral zone, okay? And I want to stress that because my school of training and what I teach to my students is not to redefine your anatomy, but to work with it. My background is Ashtanga. We move prana, we create space, and we work with our natural alignment because the alignment is internal, not external. So whatever your natural alignment is, that's where you need to work. Now, when starting dropbacks and having those roots and trying to stay in our legs, it's kind of hard unless you've practiced for many years to do a dropback with parallel feet close together. It's not impossible. In fact, if you're a natural, inward rotator, it would probably be pretty easy for you. The majority of us, though, that's kind of tough. So what I have students do intentionally is take their feet about 3 feet apart and turn out their feet. Now they're in a nice, their own neutral zone, and they have a good stance, okay? It's a lot easier to balance weight when your pillars are further apart than when they're closer together, right? It's just a lot easier to balance that weight. So bear that in mind when you're finding a good stance for your dropbacks. I'm actually going to have Rachel go wide for the purpose of this course, okay? So come to the front of the mat, Rachel. She's tall, so I'm going to have her take her feet as wide as the mat, and she's going to turn out her feet. Now, if you're not used to this, you're going to want to move in, okay? But you're also going to work against your drop back, because as we go deeper, once we have found space in our spine, okay, and we're trying to move the spokes of the wheel, the next place that movement is going to find space is in the hip flexors, okay? Now, if you rotate outwardly, naturally, okay, and you turn your feet in, you have just locked your opportunity to open the hip flexor, okay? If you open it, now there's no limit. You can keep working into that hip flexor. And as we deepen our drop backs, we are working from the heart and the hip flexors. The closer your hands get to your feet when they walk in, the more open those hip flexors are going to need to be. Because again, the body is going to need a place for the space to go, okay? Are you ready to start putting it together, Rachel?
Ready.
Rachel has actually struggled with drop back. She had a bad experience years ago. So she is in the process of working to overcome her own fears with that. Mm-hmm. All right. Kudos to Rachel. Okay. So she has her feet wide. Go ahead and turn them out again. Now again, I can't say it enough, and my students know that my mantra is legs, legs, legs. Put the weight in your legs. I'm going to talk her through some of this. You'll hear it. We'll talk about it again, okay? Rachel, take your arms up. Step one, after you have found your good stance, we're getting ready to drop back. We find space. Let's make it as easy as possible, right? So let's create space in the thoracic, between the rib cage. Good, big inhale. Go even higher, more than you think you can. Good. Now take your hands to your heart. Okay? She's going to push her sternum into her thumbs and her thumbs into her sternum, and she is going to start to drop back. As she takes her head back, okay, heart lifts. Now we're dealing with weight distribution. As the head goes back, weight goes into the legs. Take your arms up, Rachel. Okay? As you feel yourself go back, shift into the legs. When you see the floor, reach for it. We are not landing, we are reaching. We are in control. Do you see the floor? Yes. Okay, great. Reach for it. Reach for it, reach for it, reach for it. Perfect. And she has found the floor. Yay! Congratulations. And we'll take you out, Rachel. Shift your weight into your legs. Okay? And up we go. Perfect. The longer you can hang and find that weight distribution in the legs, the better you'll be, the more space you'll find in the heart and the thoracic, and the more fun you'll have. This is when it gets fun, is when you learn to control it. Okay?
Oh, good.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want you to recap again. We found our roots in our feet. Push through the ball of the foot, push through the heel. As you go back, you counter that with shifting forward. You're gonna wanna bend. If you're tight, this is what you're gonna wanna do. Don't. Keep those legs straight for as long as you possibly can, okay? So that way you have no choice but to move the space into the heart. When you go back, all right, super, super, super important. Never go anywhere you can't see where you're going. When you see the floor, then you know where you're going. Reach for it. You're in control. If you can't see it, there's no reason to try your luck. If you can't see it, that means you have more work to do in your heart area, okay? If you can see it, you know that you're ready to land. And like I said, don't think of it as landing a plane and hoping you don't crash. Reach for the floor. You're in control. All right, so now we're going to add on to that drop back, right? We're going to actually move the wheel forward instead of backward. So we'll start by dropping Rachel back, and then we'll talk about how to come forward and out. There's so much fun once you finally figure out the mechanics and you get comfortable in your body, I promise, okay? So we're going to start again like we did. Arms up, reach. Find that space. Good. Take your hands to your heart. Push your sternum in to your thumbs. Good. So the inhale takes you up, the exhale takes you back. Inhale takes you up, exhale takes you back. It's a nice rhythm to find so you can get your mind into that space as you go back. When you see the floor, good. Weight into your legs as you go back. Reach for the floor, weight's in your legs, you're protected. Good. Perfect. Now from here, we're gonna come out of the drop back while we demonstrate how to go deeper into the back bend. Yay. Okay. Yay. So, the first thing Rachel's gonna do is she's gonna walk her hands in slightly. Good. Now, what's going to happen is your heels are going to want to come up, right? The body's like, I need space. Okay, don't do it. Instead, you're going to take your heart back. Now she's going to walk it in again. Up, yeah, those heels, they just want to keep coming up. So counter it with the thoracic. Then we're going to try one more time. Now, Rachel, do me a favor because you're getting to that point where we need to bar that hip flexor. Good. Okay. So this time we're actually going to come out. We're going to walk it in and come out. So she's going to walk it in. She's going to shift her weight into her legs, and out she comes. So the best part about coming out is that as you take more and more weight in your legs, open more and more into your heart, you create this beautiful bow, and you'll get to a point when you're like, oh my gosh, it's really hard to stay down here. I'm so bowed. I need to come forward. I need to come forward because I have so much of my heart opening, right? As you shift your weight into your legs, the heart's going to want to just come out. So instead of thrusting forward, right, people do this where they go back and forth, and they try to swing out, okay? The only time I ever allow that is with a really big, tight guy. The rest of us, we don't have that privilege. because it's really not a privilege, okay? When you get to that point where you've created so much opening in your heart, all you have to do is shift your weight into your legs, like we taught you in the very beginning, and you're gonna naturally want to lean forward and come forward, okay? Remember, the root is in your legs. A lot of times people, they have a tendency to think, well, if I bring my arms up, my body will follow. And they fall on their back, okay?
That's what I do.
That happens often. But remember, our roots are there to keep us grounded in the pose, right? So work with your roots. Shift all of that weight into your legs to where it doesn't matter. Now you can hang at any point, any degree, and your legs have you. Your legs are what are gonna keep you from falling in and out of your dropbacks. Your legs, I can't stress it enough. All right, Rachel, one last time, we're just gonna demonstrate the whole thing for everyone. So remember, take your feet wide, okay? Push through your heels, especially, and get ready to transfer the weight when you need to, okay? Good. So push through your hands, push that sternum. Keep pushing here, keep pushing here. Okay, coil your head back. Good. Keep opening, keep opening. Shift the weight forward without dumping. Yeah, inhale takes you up, exhale takes you back. Inhale takes you up, exhale takes you back. Reach your arms, your weight's in your legs. Do you see the floor?
Yes.
Great, reach for it. Perfect. Now she's going to walk it in and move her heart back. She's going to walk it in, move her heart back. If you feel the heels coming off the floor, take your feet wider. Good. One last time, walk it in, take it back, shift, and come out. Now the last thing I just want to stress, this is really, really good if you're getting close to your ankles. As you can see, Rachel was getting close to her ankles. At that point, your body just needs space, okay? So one of the things you can do with a partner, if they can help you, and I really like this exercise to help you get even more into that heart center, is, and I stand behind my students when I do this, take your hands together. So you start with your hands here. But as we go closer to our ankles, our shoulders are gonna have to open even more. Okay, you'll find that. So this is just a nice exercise that I like to do. And then I come from behind, I put my heart into hers, okay? And now I'm going to put my hands on her shoulder heads, and we're going to open. So I'm going to push into her heart. And open her shoulders. So that when you go to the deepest point of your drop back to go for Chakra Bandhasana, you're really getting that lateral opening, right? Most of this will be vertical opening, but there are pieces, like in the hip flexor and then in the shoulders, that's gonna need that lateral opening. It's really important. So I hope that that was helpful to you guys. I hope that you got something out of it. Don't be afraid to fall and laugh at yourself. It's yoga. Have fun with it. Okay? So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Paige, for guiding me.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the side notes portion of the course in Dropbacks. So in the side notes, I basically just touch on some of the emotional and psychological components of the asana that we are workshopping. In this case, it's Dropbacks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what goes through your mind, what experiences you might be feeling. First of all, dropping back is not normal, all right? Like, we live in a society, in a culture of forward movement, okay? So to move the body in a backwards position is not only foreign to the mind, but also to the body, okay? So that alone is going to be uncomfortable, right? You might feel a little psyched out. Obviously, fear is a natural component that comes up. It's normal. You just don't want to have so much fear, obviously, that you're now paralyzed from connecting to your body and actually moving through the asana. So always remember to come back to your breath when you find that your mind is racing or telling you stories about you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to fall, whatever it might be. And just remember that the present moment is now, it's here, it's where you're safe. And when you come back to the breath, that's essentially the space that you can now move safely in your own control, right? So if you're operating from the mind, okay, then you lose your connection to the present moment. But if you're breathing, okay, you're now connected to your body and you are back in control. So if you ever find that you're feeling a little bit psyched out, just come back to the breath, find your body, connect to it, and try again, all right? Emotionally, some of the stuff that comes up, it can range anywhere from grief and sadness to anger or hostility. So, you know, I talk about this a lot. I will continue to talk about this, all right? Yoga is not contortion. Yoga is the process of moving prana throughout the body. We are opening up our subconscious through the connective tissues, essentially, right? And so old memories, old imprints, old holographic experiences get stored there. And as you start to break that up, old emotional traumas tend to come out. Now, keep in mind, you're here, you're not there, right? So just allow it to move through you if the emotion comes up. If you get to a state of grief or sadness, you're at the core. If you're feeling anger or hostility, then you're actually in defense mode, and that's your body's way of protecting you from the core issue, okay? So know that that's part of the process. The body is, you know, extremely intelligent in how it tries to protect you from reliving the old pain. So if you start to get really angry, like you just can't do it, or really hostile, like it's bad, that's the mind making an assessment about what it's experiencing in the physiological body and saying, don't go there, all right? It's your job to stay present, to breathe through it, allow yourself to keep moving. And when you hit the chord, all right, because there will be a sense of grief or sadness that comes up, let it come out. It's old, it's not present, just let it out, all right? Because that's essentially the healing that happens in this process. So if you hit any of those points, you're totally where you need to be, you're safe, and you're in the healing process. So keep that in mind and enjoy the process.